Hi guys, welcome back to yet another tutorial on CSS. Yeah, so today we are continuing where we left from. In the previous video we looked at I think we looked at Flex box, and we also just looked at classes and IDs and how they can be used in CSS, connecting it to HTML. Okay, so here we just have a list of things that I feel important for one to understand when dealing with CSS. I think these are major basics per se that can help one create that proper foundation when it comes to just understanding how CSS works and how you can just create that proper either layout or applying different colors, positioning, different styles to whatever you are creating, right? Yeah, so these are just some of the things that we'll need to look at. Some we've already looked at them. Yeah, so we looked at the basics of CSS. I think that's where we looked at the syntax and how you need to write your CSS code, right? We also looked at how we can connect CSS to HTML, right? Which were three ways: embedded, inline, and also external. Yeah, then we also looked at selectors. We so under selectors, that's where now we can utilize the classes and the IDs, right? So if you haven't watched the video on classes and IDs and selectors, even the basics, just in this same channel, just go look up the videos on the basics and the IDs and classes. We looked at that. We also looked at I think the box model, right? That's where we discussed how padding works, margin, and all those things for spacing. Okay, I think the thing that we didn't look at were positioning. That's where we'll start from today. So in this tutorial, look at positioning. Display, we looked at it, right? So display, you can use different types of displays. You can either use grid or flexbox, right? So the one that we looked at in the previous tutorial, we did look at flexbox. Okay, so you can look at that if you haven't. Then specificity, I think we looked at it where we're talking about the highlight in terms of which CSS is applied first as compared to the other. That is, if you're targeting the same HTML element with the same styles, right? Yeah. So then grid, I think, yeah, grid, that's, we looked at that. We didn't look at, we didn't look at grid, we looked at flex. Okay, media queries, that's something that we need to look at, especially if you want to be designing responsive websites. Then at the end, I think we'll conclude with animations. We just do some basic animations, right? So I think in this video we can now go ahead and just look at positioning, right? Positioning. So this is just a small slide that shows the points. So let me just scroll through. Okay, so this is just the syntax, right? If I can just do a quick recap. So this is just a syntax for CSS. So we always have a selector there, which is a paragraph in this case. It can be, can be anything, any HTML element. It can also be a class or an ID, right? Then you have got that open curly bracket. Then you've got the property there, which is color. Then you have the value separated by a full colon. Then you close it with a semicolon, right? Then at the end, you have a closing curly bracket like that. So this is the declaration part, and this is the selector. This is like the syntax that we use for CSS, right? So once you just understand this, it's now a matter of just understanding the different properties and values that you can apply to your different selectors. Okay, so this is what we are looking at today. So we have a thing called positioning, right? So if you read here, okay, all right, so in CSS we have what we call positioning. Okay, positioning. So the position property, right, in CSS is what allows us to create different layout on websites, right? Different layouts. So positioning. So the position property has about 6 values, namely flex, relative, absolute, fixed, static, and sticky, right? And most of the time you notice we'll be using relative and absolute if we just want to position something inside a container. Okay, and there are times when you'd want to just maybe fix a certain, whether it be a button, right, on your page, right? So if you create a website where maybe people are scrolling through your website, you'd want maybe just a button somewhere. Maybe it can be a call to action button, it can be maybe a chat bot, right? Maybe just at the maybe right bottom corner there, you want to position it, so you can actually maybe fix it, or you can apply static. We'll look at the differences that these have. Okay, so I'm sure it will make sense when we start writing the code. Yeah, so this is the absolute position, where you position something based on the position of its parent. Okay, that's absolute. Relative, you make it in such a way that the child can be positioned to it in a certain way, and we'll look at that. Then fixed, that's where now it's stuck. You just fix it, right, at a certain distance. So look at that as well. Okay, so I think we can go in VS Code and just look at how we can apply that. Okay, all right, so we had this. Okay, this is the code from the previous tutorial. So I think what I can do is I'll remove, let me see, we need something that we can work with. Okay, so I'll do this. I'll just remove these other ones. Okay, we'll have a container and section 1. Okay, so leave the container there. Okay, I'll just remove all the properties in here. I'll apply background color so that we're able to see it, and you say blue. Okay, background color blue. Then we need a width and a height. Okay, so I'll just copy that. So with the width, let me just put it 500. Okay, even this one will be 500. Oh, let me say 1000. There's something that I want to show you guys, so I think it will be better if it's 1000, like that. Then remember, we've removed these. Okay, we've removed that. We now have 1. Okay, 1 has a background color of blue, so we'll change it to maybe red so that they are different. Then this one, we'll leave it like that. Want it to be a square, so it will just be 300. Okay, now save the work like that. Okay, so I've saved the work. Let's now check it out. So we'll copy the path. Then I'll just open it like that. Okay, it is open on the other side. Just show it here, right? Okay, so here we'll paste. Okay, let me reset it to the original position. Okay, so it's like that. Okay, let me just reduce the height of this container. Maybe we can put 600. Okay, so just put 600. Okay, and then we refresh. Okay, like that. I think that's better. Okay, so the first thing, remember, we're talking about positioning, right? Talking about positioning. So both of these need a position property. So for this one, this is the parent. Okay, so remember what I said. Positioning, when it comes to the parent, you declare it as relative. Okay, like that, relative, so that this can now be positioned based on the position of the parent. Okay, so on this one, when you say position, okay, you say absolute, right? So if we don't put position relative here, it will be positioned absolute to the main container, the main body, which is this one, and not its container. Okay, not its parent. Okay, so having done that, we can now save the work. Okay, now we haven't specified where it's supposed to position itself, whether on the right side, top, bottom, or left. Okay, so let's check what happens when we refresh. Nothing happens, right? Because we haven't specified. Okay, so now you can actually specify it. So we want it at the bottom, and the space from the bottom to the child, we want it to be 0. It means it to touch itself at the bottom like that. Okay, so we save the work. Then when we refresh, you can see that it's now where at the bottom, right? So we've positioned it at the bottom there, but we haven't specified whether we want it to be on the left side or the right side. By default, it positions itself on the top and left. Okay, so we have to override those properties. So the second one will say we want it at the right, want it 0. So if I save the work, we refresh, you've seen it's now at the bottom right side. Okay, that's how relative and absolute work. Okay, so the HTML element that you are positioning relative to the to its main container or parent, that's the one where you specify whether you want it at the bottom or left, right? So it doesn't always have to be like, you know, 0. You can put whichever units you want. So this unit, it will be 10 pixels above the bottom and 10 pixels away from the right side. Okay, so when we save the work and check, you will see that it's now 10 pixels away from the bottom and right. Okay, so that's how absolute and relative works. Right, so I think the next one we can look at is now fixed. Okay, all right, fixed like that. Okay, so with fixed value, it's now different from absolute and relative. So when you declare a position as fixed, right, it fixes itself relative to the viewport. Okay, so what do I mean? All right, so let's go and refresh our page like that. Okay, so when you refresh our page, you see that the item is at the bottom there like that. Okay, so even if we scroll down, it will just be fixed in that one position. Why? Because it's relative to the viewport. Okay, then when you look at static, okay, so with static, it's not affected by these positions with the bottom or right, because every HTML element that we put on our page by default is static and is not affected by these values. So even if we remove these values and refresh our page, you notice that it will go back to its original position. Okay, right. Okay, so the next one that we look at is sticky. Okay, so we might have something sticky like that. Then we specify, okay, we want it to stick at the top, maybe 10 pixel like that. Okay, so we don't need this. Okay, sticky. So this one is relative to the viewport as well. Okay, so when we go to this one, we just want to make sure that it's sticky and it's on its own like that. Okay, so to just show that it can scroll, we'll copy this and just paste it here so that, yeah, we can see that it's able to stick. Okay, so when we go on our page, we refresh. Okay, this is the top, you see, so we're not able to see the, as we scroll down, be able to see it here, right? Then as we scroll, it will reach a point where it's now sticky. Okay, so even if we bring it down, you've seen that it goes in its position, but when it reaches the top, it becomes sticky like that. Okay, so that's how sticky works. So see you in the next video.